making sure that you can see the PowerPoint presentation and some links that I will show. Are there any questions so far? No, so let's try by doing. So today it's basically about how to develop a good GPP training toolkit. GPP, we all know, it's Green Public Procurement. So it's really about thinking and together discussing what is a training toolkit, what does it include. It's like, you know, when you are a plumber, you have your box, and there are all the tools that you will then bring to the place when you talk about GPP. And the idea is that thanks to these presentations, the trainings that you give, then Green Public Procurement practices are spreading. So in order to have a good training toolkit, there are different things should be considered. And I will give you presentations where out of our practice, and I've given a lot of trainings already. So out of this practice and experience, I noted down a few main points. So it's more like between practice and content. This is not about how you actually then do the training, because as you know, that will come later. But I think I pass directly on to the presentation, and as we go through the presentation, you may raise questions, etc., or write them in the chat box. So I will now try to get into my presentation. Just a moment. Share. It's not this one, but okay, here you go. So let's go into it. This will last around, as I said, more or less an hour, depending on how much questions there are and how easy it is for you. And I see here a question, just a moment. But you know what, I think in order to facilitate things, I go to the slides, and then when I stop, I go back to the screen in order to see if there are any questions from your side. I think that's the easiest. So now what I will present is the different tasks as they are outlined in the GreenS project proposal, just to give an overview, and that we know what is this work package about, why are we developing a GPP training toolkit, and what does a training package include in the best case, where do you find material. I provided some links, next steps, and other questions you may have. Let's start with the task as it is outlined in the project. So it's about ICLEI. We are basically guiding you, trying to give the best advice in order for you to prepare your GPP training toolkit, and provide you links. So this is not like, okay, here was the webinar and that's it. No, we will. You can write to us, and we can give you additional information, help you. That's why we are here in this project, because the final aim is, as we know, the GPP institutionalization of in your countries, so that it's really taking off, and there is a follow-up, there is a sustainability, and that actually tenders, green tenders, are spreading. So task 4.1 is about preparing the material, and then later, you know, there will be train the trainer events, one of the partner meetings where we will give you in 2 days, explain you, okay, how do you do the training? And that's then another thing. This is more about first preparing the documents, the presentations, the toolkit, and then at this train the trainer seminar, or call it multiplier seminar, we will try the different exercises, go through the slides and give tricks and hints on how to do a good training. That comes later. Now it's about preparing the stuff that you then bring to wherever you go when training is being done. And later it's also about capacity building, etc. But let's look what is now to be done by month 8, which according to my understanding would be currently January. And as you know, in this EU project, it's always the best. The earlier you start, the better it is. You can never start too early, because it's January will pass quickly. There will be Christmas, so we thought it's a good idea to have now the webinar so that you already start preparing things, organizing yourself. Who is doing, preparing the slides? Who is preparing this? Who is preparing that? So this is about preparing the training program. Important to know that all partners are responsible for preparing the training material. So it's not ICLEI preparing a GPP training for you, but it's you preparing your own training for your reality, because you know best what are the priorities in your country, what are the policy, strategy, and it's important that that you develop a GPP training which makes most sense. Some procurers are more advanced, some less. Some have a strong policy, some have priorities on certain product groups. And then by month 8, you should not only have this training toolkit, so you should have it in your language. I think that's pretty clear. You will anyway prepare it in your language, though the links that I provide you, they're mainly in English. Some are also in other languages. So you see here the 7 languages required are Swedish, Italian, Spanish, Latvian, Slovenian, well, I think this Cypriot, Greek, and Bulgarian. So what does a good training package include? What do you need in the box, let's say? So I imagine there is procurers or a municipality or an association who says, well, yeah, we are very interested in your training. And then it's good that you have your box in there with all the documents needed. So obviously it's good, needless to say, but I think it's good to list it also later when you go to the slides that I provided here. It's good to have an overview, you know, that you can, if there's an interest, you send the overview that clearly shows, okay, what's in it. That you have the agenda, the slides, interactive exercises. Then agenda. Agenda is always good. And I will go through all the different points. Then PowerPoint presentations, interactive exercises, an evaluation form, trainer notes, participants list, and trainer script. I go through all of them in detail. But before, it's important that for all communication purposes, that there is coherence. Where are we coming from? Who are you? So obviously it needs the GreenS logo. And there, Milena already sent around the PowerPoint presentation. I can show it later. You saw there is the format, so please use this well-done formatted PowerPoint format, so that we have a coherence when we put it on the website. They all look more the same, the slides. So there should be on the front page. It would be good to have more, you know, the GreenS logo plus the Horizon 2020 logo, plus the disclaimer text as it is, and all partner logos. I think the latter can be discussed later. And also on other documents that might be more important, you could have more logos in front on the first page. Then on the other slides, you have the GreenS logo, but it doesn't mean meet all the logos. Agenda. I think agenda is always an important thing, because when someone asks you, okay, we are interested in a training, how does it work? It's good that you discuss among yourself, okay, how do we best do the agenda? Some like to have the trainings more in the morning, in the afternoon. Some want it from morning till late, but that you prepare already a certain structure that you can send to interested people. And this structure is basically the basic, where you can say, okay, in the morning we start with an introduction to Green Public Procurement, for instance. Then we can talk about strategy. Then we can talk about priority groups. Maybe someone is more interested in energy, the other one more in buildings or in vehicles, procurement. I think it's good when you already prepare your agenda so that you can then easily adapt it to the different requests. It could also be that, as it is outlined in the project, if you have a lot of participants, then I think, what was it, more than 15, you should consider to have 2 days training. This is then up to us. What logos? Well, I just put it there as a question, but as I said, I think the main logo should be the GreenS logo and the Horizon 2020 to be on the safe side, and then, if possible, also the logos of the other partners. That also gives a good impression and shows to whoever is interested, wow, here's not just, I don't know, one small office asking. Here is like really, it's a European project. There are many partners. We are part of something wider. Now, the PowerPoint presentations, I think this is the heart of the training, because a training usually consists, you start with the welcome of the host, and then you start with usually with the first training session is about introducing GPP or understanding where everybody is, so that everybody is at the same stage. Some might have a lot of information already, GPP, others may think, what sort of animal is this procurement, this green public procurement? So usually a session, I would say usually a seminar consists of 3-4 sessions with breaks in between. And usually each session contains at least one PowerPoint presentation, unless you prefer having an hour of interactive exercises. Again, PowerPoint presentations, Milena sent around a format, so you have that. Just a few points that I've noted down. You may be very familiar with them, so avoid too many formats. Sometimes people are overly ambitious, and then there are different styles and fonts. It's better to be as clear and concise as possible, not to have too wordy, because anyway, according to the project proposal, we should also write under each slide in the notes some explanation. So if a trainer, for instance, has more information on a certain slide, he just looks under the slide, in the trainer notes, in the PowerPoint slide notes, and finds more information about what the slide is about. Pictures are good, but be careful about royalties. For instance, we at our organization, we had recently an issue where someone got back to us about a picture which was not quoted well, and we had to pay a fine. So be careful that this could happen. Maybe you anyway have an archive, a place where you have pictures that you can use, that you made yourself, that you paid for. Otherwise, there are also free pictures available. For instance, digital free pictures. If you Google that, you can find ways on how to get pictures for free. You just have to quote properly. It's just to know to you. And for all the content that you use in the PowerPoint, if you go, sometimes I will provide you links from other projects. Make always sure that you quote, and you quote properly, and I will go into that later. Another good point is certainly also, like when you give presentations, that in the PowerPoint presentation, let's say at the end, that you also always include some links. So if participants did not understand some points, that they can then at home or in their office click the links and really read a lot more about the projects that you presented, good practice examples, or where information is. Ensure flexibility. Well, that basically means that if you go to a municipality which is at the very beginning, you might have more slides. If the municipality is advanced, you can cut a few, or you can join PowerPoint presentations. Don't be too strict. As I said, the introduction is always good. Start with a few key benefits, 1-2 best practices to ensure that everyone understands exactly where you are. That's what we usually do. I think that's always good, that people understand straight from the beginning, okay, this is Green Public Procurement, now I got it. I got a good example. I understood now that it really makes sense. There's a lot to gain in terms of energy efficiency, of climate change strategy, in terms of cost efficiency also. But what is important, even if you have the different good practice examples, always make sure there is a good link to your reality. You know, there's no need now that we include, I don't know, good practice example from the States, because that's then far away. So it's try to find ways to really see what is available at local level or regional level or national level. You know, are there any policies? So when you give a training, it's always important, but this can also come later. It's also important to have really strong links so that each PowerPoint presentation is really useful exactly for this target group that you are giving the training. So you could have, for instance, in a PowerPoint presentation that you prepare for the introduction, a slide empty, where the trainer has also to make links to what is available locally or regionally in terms of policies, programs, funding schemes, or endorsement. I don't know, maybe there's a strong mayor on GPP. What are priority product groups? And what good practice is available. Obviously, if there's an excellent practice at the local level, it's good to include it, because you know, when there's good practice in the national level, there's also a healthy competition. What these cities managed it well, then we should also manage it. This type of. You can have long PowerPoint presentations, but then you should also allow, you know, lots of breaks where you say, okay, now are there any questions, or you pose a few questions or some provocative thoughts, or you ask the participants here to talk with their neighbors. Otherwise, it can be quite boring if there is an hour of presentations, you know, more than, let's say, 20, 25 slides, then people may lose interest. I saw there were a question, but maybe after I go through these different items of what is in a GPP training toolkit, then I will make a break and check what questions you may have, because currently I also don't see exactly where I should see the questions. So I just go through what are the different items, and then I will go back to the screen to see what questions there are. Interactive exercises. So if a good training always includes interactive exercises. This is a cultural thing also. You know, some people, they like to do lots of exercises. As we know from pedagogy, if something makes fun, if something is playful, you learn much faster, instead of having a lineup of 5 presentations, one after the other. There are good ones, and I will indicate them to you, and then you may have good ones that I didn't indicate, and it would be great if you could share them at the partner meeting. It's just, it's up to you, be creative, and many interactive exercises, they work also well with on GPP. And sometimes it may surprise you how interactive it can be, but how well then in the evaluation they rate these exercises. So I would say in your training package you should have at least 5 interactive exercises that you tried in your organization, and that you know you can handle them well, or the trainer can handle well, and you use them then according to your way of how you structure your training. An evaluation form, I think this is very important, because otherwise you may think, wow, I did a great job, and then probably maybe the participants think it differently. But it's also good to improve yourself. It's sometimes, you know, you have participants that are, well, they're usually, there are three types, you know. Ones, they call them the holiday makers. They come and they don't really interactive. There are the other ones that are very engaging and all the time have questions and raise, and others that might more be obstructive. So it's about different types. But anyway, if you have an evaluation form,
hello, Peter.
Yes.
Hello.
You're here, Filippo. Wow. Thanks. It's a long way till Cosenza, the cable. Welcome, Filippo. And the evaluation form. So what I wanted to say, I think it's important. We can provide a basic one and you can adapt it, but I think it's good that all partners who have trainings you also develop an evaluation form that you then give to all participants. And after each training, they are handed out to everybody. And you internally evaluate them, and you can see, what you can improve or not. And then I think for the project reporting, and so it's good that you have then this data and you include them in your report. I think then everybody can agree that you did a good job. And in order for comparability, what I meant here and coherence, I just wrote that because sometimes it's good, if you ask them to write, I don't know, too many things, it's difficult to compare. So ideally, you have when you evaluate, you have points from, I don't know, 1 is the best. Wow, I just loved your training. And 5 is never again, I don't know, bad. So if you have then the evaluation form, you can easily say, okay, then from 10 participants, the evaluation forms, they all clicked 1, so the average is 1, it's just for evaluation. But it's always good also to have a space where they can write their comments on what can be done better or any ideas. Trainer notes, I mentioned them. Basically, trainer notes, we should include them. It means that, when you do a PowerPoint presentation, below the slide, there is a space. So for instance, if you have a good practice example, you could below include the link where you found it. So that the trainer, if he's really good and prepares well, he checks carefully in detail the good practice example. So if there are any questions from participants, he's prepared. Or you have just explain a bit the content, what you want to say with this slide. It's basically about the additional info they get. And will also help, in this institutionalization of GPP in your countries means that there will be 2 trainers that do the trainings, but for the sustainability of the project, if you have a training where you have these trainer notes, obviously also other people can then take on the trainings because there's a lot of explanation, and then it's not just if these 2 trainers are not around and the trainings cannot be done. No, you have enough information, so if someone really prepares well, he can do the training. And you can also include ideas like say, okay, now I recommend to have a break, let's do an interactive exercises or include questions, etc. Participants list and trainer script. Well, participants list I think is the same. It's good to have it that also for the evidence that the training took place. So keep them internally, but for the report then you can report, okay, we did these trainings. These are how many people participated, and again, put on the GreenS logo and the different logos to make sure people understand this is about this project, this is funded by the Commission, etc. An idea, and I will provide also a few links. Sometimes what we did, ICLEI has a long tradition on green public procurement, sustainable public procurement. So we have platforms, newsletter, like for instance on Procura Plus, where you get all the latest news on sustainable public procurement, good practice examples, etc. You could include that in the participants list, so a participant could typically write his name and say, okay, I click the box where it says, do you want to get additional information on GreenS or on the Procura Plus, etc. And trainer script is, I would say, an optional. Some people, they like to have it more informal, to ensure maximum flexibility, but it's always good also for time management. And most of us are in the Mediterranean countries. So for the time management, it's sometimes good to, for each session that you maybe prepare a bit so that you calculate and write in your trainer scripts, okay, session 1 is about introduction GPP. The PowerPoint presentation will last 30 minutes. Afterwards, we'll have question 15 minutes so that you structure a bit. Otherwise, it could be that, I don't know, 1.5 hours pass, you're still in the PowerPoint presentation. It's just a bit to have a time management and also to clearly do a realistic structure on your training. now I will pass on to the links, but before I will try now to get to look at the chat to see what questions there are. So if there are any questions, you can raise them now. I see there is from Ulrike. Ulrike, do you want to tell your question?
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Very structural and good. I was just wondering. I wasn't sure what you said about interactive exercises. Would you give some examples of that when we meet in November? And also, what about if we use, like in Sweden, we have had some different projects earlier that has worked with Green Public Procurement, and if we want to use material that comes from these projects, how do we do with the GreenS logo? Can we put the logo on that material as well?
Yeah.
And also the evaluation form. You said something about use the same evaluation form, and who will do this template? Will we do it together, or these are my questions?
Yeah, a lot of questions. All are good, Ulrike. So I think about the evaluation form, yeah, we can prepare a draft. I think this is a smaller issue that we can discuss at our partner meeting, and I can bring one that we used in other projects, and we can adapt it and discuss it there. I think what is good that all of you start thinking or maybe preparing already a bit of the slides, because that till we have our partner meeting, it's end of November. And as I said, according to the project deadline in January, all of us should have, or all of you should have prepared already the whole training package. So I think it would be good to at least have already start with a few PowerPoint presentations. But about the evaluation form, this is something we can discuss there, and then we can prepare or bring a basic template, and you can adapt it so that when we do the reporting or the comparison, it's easy to compare. Not that every partner has a different evaluation form. This, I think, would be no problem. About the presentation or interactive exercises, I will talk about them now when I present them. Let's see how much I go into detail. And also all these links, you will find many more information that I will show to you now. So I really invite you, afterwards I will send around this PowerPoint presentation, that you well, scroll around, really take your time for each link, each project, see how they did it, the training, how did they develop, what presentations did they develop, what interactive exercises are they using. And there you usually, at least I know it for the PRIMES project and the GPP 2020, you have clear indications on how you should quote this. You know, obviously, certain interactive exercises, they have not been invented usually by project partners. They are around long, but in order to avoid any issues, I invite you to, well, refer properly to what is written in the respective project, how to quote the information that you take out. But I will go also into that. So if there are no other questions, or are there any other questions? Okay, then I go into links. Okay, let me see.
Sorry.
Filippo, hello. Buongiorno.
Ciao, buongiorno. Maybe we were not connected yet. Mr. Carmen, we would like to better understand how you plan to organize the interactive games, the interactive material.
Well, the next project meeting, everyone brings €1,000 and then we start gambling. No, we will, now I will show you a few interactive exercises, and I think before the project meeting at the end of November, you should all be, at least take your time and analyze them and maybe already try a few of them. And then we can discuss it further. Now it's not obviously about this, it's no more about providing information. giving tips about how to prepare a good GPP training toolkit. And then when Philip and I give you the 2-day Train the Trainer seminar, you know, where we really go through PowerPoint presentations, all these questions, there certainly we will also test among ourselves all these interactive exercises, because that's the best way to familiarize with them and get used to them. So we will try them in practice in these 2 days Train the Trainer. And then also, as you know, ICLEI will also go to all the countries then to do a 1-day Train of the Trainer, where we, with the GPPS support units, with these 2 trainers that each of you will identify, with them we will do another Train the Trainer, again about also exercises, because it's an important part, the exercises, equally important than all the PowerPoint presentations. So that's the idea. Now it's mainly give you the information, and then at the partner meeting, I would say, if any of you have questions or have other ideas of interactive exercises, we can share them. But to really try them and test them, that would be then at the 2-day Train the Trainer. Other questions? Otherwise, I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So here are what I call the best GPP training links. If there are any others that you would mention, then include, and you can send them to me, and we can discuss them later. I can include them in the PowerPoint presentation when I will send it around. I will just go on the website of these projects that I mentioned here and go a bit through. We don't have now too much time to go in detail, but just to give you a bit of a flavor. And then I really invite you, all of you, to look at them, get ideas, and say, okay, this the way they do the presentation on the introduction, I like it. I will adapt it for my training toolkit. Or I like the Baltic GPP, which makes sense, for instance, for Sweden, because as far as I know, there's also part of it is in Swedish. Then the GPP training toolkit should be in all the languages of the EU. So just look around. Also, obviously, check also that they're up to date. There should be, but get inspired by them. Let's now see a few websites. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, let's start with GPP 2020. That's the home of Philip Tepper. He's the project coordinator of it. You see that's when you include the link, what comes up. And then, yeah, here you have information about the project, news, low carbon tender. So here you find best practice examples. For instance, you see you click on best practice examples. You could see, okay, let's see if in my country there are any good practice examples, because they are very up to date. So you can just scroll through them, and it's really nicely shows you. You see how much CO2 has been saved, how much energy has been saved, how it was done. You see here, for instance, in Barcelona, through energy performance contracting. There are partners from countries that are also partner countries in GreenS. So just get inspired. Then when you go on events and trainings, you see you have here training material. You can click on training material, and you have in languages, you see here Italian, English, and the other languages. You have Slovenian, you have train the procurer material. So here you see, for us important is this, because this is for train the trainer. So it's about the train the procurer, because that's what you also prepare. So let's go here on the English one. Then you see here are the training materials. And going back to Ulrika's question about how do I have to quote, here you have terms of use of how to use the material. So go through it carefully, read it, and then whatever material you use, make sure you quote properly. I don't think we have to go now in detail on the training materials, but you just then click on it and, you know, different languages and see what's there. Maybe you say, okay, I want a training. In my training that I have to give to these cities or these procurers, they are very interested in vehicles. Then you look on these different websites, what is around in terms of presentations on vehicles procurement. So this is about the GPP 2020 project, which is still ongoing, so very up to date. And also, as I said, very good for best practice examples. Anyway, I also would invite us and you in your websites, on your organizations, you could also link to these projects, you know, have links because they're up to date. They have been also praised sometimes as very good practice projects because they achieved a lot of through their active partners, a lot of savings already through procurement. So they are good. It's a good example in any case on how green public procurement can help to save CO2 emissions, can help to save energy. Now, the GPP training toolkit, ICLEI, this 2008 is, well, that's when it started. ICLEI did the first one. The training toolkit was basically a contract by the Commission to say, okay, what could you develop different modules, you know, in order to, for GPP. So one module, as you see here, was an action plan for GPP. And it could be that you give, when you give a training, the municipality or the procurer tells us, okay, we want also a session on strategy. How do we, what action, how do we do step by step in order to have institutionalize or spread GPP in order to have green tenders. So you find a lot of information here, how to include the LCC, some legal issue. And then on the top, on the bottom, sorry, you see module 3, practical module. If you click here, you find really up to date. These are not from 2008. You see here 2012, 2014. So on different products, you find information, presentation in all the languages. So this is can be really useful. So it could be, you know, that someone tells you, okay, we want a session specifically on electricity because all our public buildings, we want them 100% fed by electricity from renewable energy sources. Then you click here, you have technical background information, and how it is done in this GPP training toolkit is that for each product, they look at what is the environmental impact, you know, I don't know, electricity, well, what can be the impact if it's not from renewable sources, and what can be the impact on the environment if it's from renewable sources. And then you have criteria according to ambition. So you have basic green criteria where you say, okay, this is now for procurers who just started, who don't know yet how much is available on the market. And then we recommend this type of criteria. Or you have procurers who say, hello, don't come now with introduction, we are already very advanced, and give us more ambitious criteria, we want really be a front runner. Then you have a different set of criteria. But here really get inspired, check all the different product groups. So it's all there, you don't have to think, oh my God, I have to develop and do research and develop a whole new presentations. It's all there, and you can, well, take information out there. Then another one is here, the Baltic GPP. This is already over, but I think it's very well done. It's very well layouted, and it has very good information. You see here the different languages. So here is the Ulrika is lucky because it's there are not, but you can also find in other languages. English, there is also information. And what is great, I used it a few times, is for instance their video. When you click here, now I don't want to click here because I don't know what's going to happen. But it's a very well done video, and it can be, you know, when you see the participants, the eyes are closing or you are after lunch. So with something like this, you can really a bit wake up, and it has nice information on the benefits of GPP. So you can just include here the link. But also you have success stories, you have training material. So also here another source of information, of inspiration. And here we go to Primes. Primes is another project ICLEI is involved in. And this project, again, is also about good practice example and about training material that you can get inspired. You see here the case studies and training material. If you click on it, something should happen. Yes, this training material was developed by myself. Here again, you see acknowledgement and disclaimer for using it. And here you have different training materials. So if someone says, well, you know, we heard a lot about LCC, life cycle costing. Can you, in your training, talk about it? You can click it and take out some information, or low carbon GPP, or different product groups that you see here. So you see, for instance, if you have someone says, okay, we want to do a green tender for IT products, computers, multifunctional devices, you can look in the presentation here. You can go on the GPP training toolkit. You can go on the GPP 2020. Just make sure you quote it properly and get inspired. So it shouldn't be too hard now to develop a GPP training toolkit. The important thing, as I said, is what I think is always that you don't look, well, the information content is good to take out from here, but for good practice example, it should always be the closest to your reality. So if they're in your country, there are good practice examples, include them. If there are strategy, I don't know, to support anything related to CO2 reduction, or politicians go around, or the mayor saying, I want 20% more CO2 reductions, then you can really refer to it and say, look, IT products, buildings, vehicles, this all helps to reduce CO2 emissions. So here we have information for you on how to include criteria in your public purchasing to really reduce CO2 emissions. So make always the link to the local. Now I will go back to the PowerPoint presentations. Are there any questions? Let's see. Nobody's raising the hand. Otherwise, just say or use the microphone, and I pass on to the next slide. Maybe we do the discussion then after the presentation. Here, just a few links from ICLEI, what we are doing in terms of procurement. You know, it's also good, since we have a long tradition on procurement. We have all this newsletter where already many procurers all around Europe are included. You can also scroll through it, and as I said, for instance, the participants list, what we do sometimes in project, they can click on one of, they can say, yes, we want information from GreenS if there is something news, or from other projects, or from these links that I provide. But also for preparing your PowerPoint presentations, you may look, for instance, in one of the links here.
So the screen is grey. Peter, the screen is grey. You changed between the programs that is open.
Sorry.
Close view and open the right.
But the websites you could see.
Yes, the websites were perfect.
Okay.
This just happened while you have to close the screen view and open the other file. I know what you did.
Okay, I close the screen. Okay, stop sharing, I do, and then I start again probably.
Yes.
Okay. Now you see it?
Yes. You can make it big.
Okay. Sorry for that. You see, nobody's perfect in this game. So yes, another few links to here to get inspiration, good practice examples. I mentioned it. Just make sure, because in the past sometimes there were issues. You know, when you work in projects, sometimes partners some love to share. We are now in the age of sharing everything, and some are very careful. They don't want really to share, and if they share, they want really that people also acknowledge that it comes from their organization, from their project. So just respect that. And I think it's also good that if someone took a lot of effort of producing sometime, then it's also good to quote that. Next steps, we are already coming to the end phase. So to recapitulate, I gave you now some ideas on what a GPP Green Public Procurement Training Toolkit could include, from the agenda to the overview, PowerPoint presentations, evaluation form, etc. I would say, since the deadline for preparing this in your language, the whole toolkit, is January 2016, don't start too late. You can never start too early. So I would recommend you, at least within your organization, if you are more than one, to have a meeting internally to discuss who is doing what, to prepare already, think about your local, regional, national situation, think about what our strategy, what our priority groups, and start drafting presentations, you know, look where the information is, where the links are that fit best to you, so that you also have something done, and not you know, when we are at the project, end of project partner meeting, end of November, then it's shortly after is December, and then basically it should be already done. So let's not get stressed in January, but start as soon as possible. And some things like interactive exercises, we will test them. You can test them already and report to us how they were, or if you have others. And then at the 2 days Train the Trainer event that ICLEI will provide, we can really test them together, and that will be anyway also fun. And also think this is also part of your GPP institutionalization concept or strategy that each of you will have to be prepared by month 12. So I think this exercise about developing your training is also part of a preparation for this strategy, because the training itself is already part of this strategy, because you will have to outline, define, describe in your strategy, in your concept, and it says in the project 30-pager, how you want to spread GPP, how do you make sure, and in a convincing way, that with what you do, the trainings, the people that you work with, the synergies you create, how you will make sure that after this project, during, and especially also after, talking about sustainability, GPP will be spread, that people will be really convinced and will do trainings, that will do green tenders. Because often it's like this, you know, you give a training, there's a lot of excitement, and then it all vanishes. So it's really important to think already what can be a strategy, what can be, you see, I wrote some questions that could a bit go through your mind. What priority areas are there on GPP at local, regional, or national level? What products are on the market? What services are mostly focused? What are municipalities around you typically purchasing? So that it's really what you produce in your training toolkit, it really makes a lot of sense in this strategy. Then obviously also, what is your target? Will you mainly train beginners or advanced procurers, or a mixed, so that you have really flexible training? If there are more, usually the best number is up to 15. If there are more than 15 people in a training, it's tough, you know, also for the working groups. So if you have more people, you could consider to do, well, back-to-back, two trainings, or one training for 2 days. It could be that there's a municipality, or, well, procurers, they ask for a lot of sessions and they want information about all sorts of products, or on innovation, public procurement of innovation, or life cycle costing. So that then it might be also take 2 days. That's up to you. Think about it, how the GPP training toolkit can be strategically used. Obviously, it's also for your organization. It's a market advantage. You will be you will test the training. It will be really give you good visibility. And if you also have the support and from above, from a mayor, from the politics, this can be really an important thing for the uptake of green tendering. What synergies are possible? Are there other European projects or national projects that you can link up with programs? And for instance, yes, there could be that there's another project which also includes training, so you could partner up. Or there is an event on green economy, or I don't know, green purchasing, green products, a fair where you could come in with a training. Just think what is possible. And then sometimes in some countries it helps more, in some less. If there's a political support for this training that you can also provide when asking for training opportunities, then it can be sometimes good if there's, I don't know, a minister or a mayor who says, well, I support this, and that can be an additional value. Here we are at the last slide, and now I would invite you to any questions or additional thoughts, comments you may have. Thank you so far for your attention, and I'm all ears and eyes to see what comes now from your side. Is there any follow-up questions you may have?
Thank you. Peter, just...
That was nice, thank you, lovely. Yes,
Hello.
I have here, let me see, Filippo, you can start. Filippo, don't be shy.
No, it's okay. No, regarding last point,
yes,
about the institutionalization of the GPP, no? When with Peter we decided to develop this point, the aim was well, there is a deep lack of training, of knowledge in public administrations. We should try to give a stronger impulse to GPP training. I don't know, to find a form to involve and convince municipalities and public bodies to give also some bonus or benefits for municipalities doing this kind of activities, okay? Or I don't know, we should try to be also creative and think about something very efficacy regarding the GPP institutionalization, okay? Or
no, I fully agree with you, and I think this could be a valid point to discuss, for instance, the next partner meeting end of November, since as I said, the concept, I mean, the final concept should be at the end of the project, but by month 12, each of you should have already a strategy, a concept to be updated every year. So I think at the partner meeting, we should really take our time to be creative and think about ideas, because maybe in one country there can be an award that, I don't know, the ministry or an association says they want to award. In other countries there might be other ideas that might work better for the promotion. But I think it's a good idea.
For example, we were thinking with the director of environmental department of Calabria region to give some bonus, to give municipalities some bonus for those implementing some training activities for technicians regarding structural funds.
How would the bonus look like? What?
For example, there is a call for proposal. There is a call for a tender, and when we evaluate your proposal, if you for example, organizes a training course or some activity related to GPP. I give in the grid. I give more points to have to obtain the grant, to obtain the fund. Okay. For example, no.
No, I think this it's definitely something to discuss, and it's a good point, and that we should definitely talk about this because there is a deadline then at the beginning of the new year, and it may help if partners share ideas for their respective. Each partner has to do this GPP institutionalization. Mamma mia, it's quite a long word. Institutionalization, concept or strategy. Yeah. So it's good there to discuss, so that in the following months after the meeting, each partner is inspired to write down the points. After all, it's 30 pages that you write, so that would be good. Okay, then I have some hands here that are long raised. So before Inete here gets a cramp in her hand. Inete, what was your question? Yours is the floor. Inete?
I hope you hear me.
Yes.
Hello?
I hear you.
You hear me, I hope. Yeah. So, well, my basic question is that I, of course, do not know how for other partners, but the persons that seem to be the appointed, be the trainers, they do not have any training experience, and that is quite, I would say, challenging for them to build the session.
Yes.
And I appreciate all the slides that are there, but I still think that maybe the one good example for the project level still we have to create. Yeah. And we should probably ask ICLEI to do that, like a sample training. And second one, for all the trainings, as far as I know, we have been working here in Riga. We always also put in the training sessions the sort of European approaches and the references to the obligations or the recommendations by European institutions, because that has a big impact.
Yes.
On behavior. So maybe that is something to consider to add to the training, and that could also be done in a harmonized way for everyone.
And what do you mean by European recommendations?
We can then translate it because we. Well, the European framework for green public procurement, the updated information, the something that is harmonized, and what we go with everywhere. Because normally to introduce any new practice, we strongly sort of emphasize that this is something that comes with the European targets, with European vision, with European agreed approaches.
No, definitely, this is important. And you may look, for instance, when you go on one of the links, for instance, Primes, that I know well because I prepared the slides, but you can also look then in other trainings that I provided, links that I provided. But in the Primes, for instance, if you go under strategy or GPP process, or now I don't know all the titles by heart, there you have an overview of all the framework, you know, because as you mentioned, there is now the new, in 2014, the new directives came out on procurement. So all the member states have 2 years till April 2016, till April next year, to transpose them into their national law, and they will then be valid. So this is all there described very clearly on the recommendations from the commissions and how the commission helps. So this is definitely important to include, so that in the trainings procurers are aware about the greater framework in Europe, that it's not something like this project is about, but it's about the whole European Union strategy of the European Union, because now GPP is very high on the agenda in order to achieve the CO2 reduction, in order to achieve the energy efficiency targets, etc. And about the problem you raised at the beginning, that trainers are not really trainers, this is taken care of in the project, because, as I said, on one hand, all partners, all of you will receive a train the trainer seminar, however we call it, basically where we go with you through the trainings. You come also with your trainings, ideas, comments. We test the interactive exercises, and that's one thing. Apart from that, ICLEI GPP experts will go to each of you and meet these trainers. So we will go there in 7 places all around Europe, and we meet these trainers that you identified as the best ones to do the training. And in a day, we will go through the training that you have prepared by then, and we will give our ideas, hints, try with them exercises, answer questions on all issues, challenges, opportunities that may come up in a training. So I think in that sense, it's really ensured that we maximize the usefulness of these trainings. And but this is also something then, and here we'll then also give the floor to Aya. It's about choosing the right trainers, because I think this also will be an important point also for your strategy. I think, you know, we discussed how should these trainers be? Should there be law experts? Should they be procurers from procurement background? I think obviously the ideal one is a bit of everything, but what is important that they are really also convincing, you know, good communicators, because someone can know everything about procurement but not be able to really inspire others. So it's someone who really can, nowadays everything can be learned, you know, if there is a training there, if you go to all the lengths, if you prepare well, you can really pass on a lot of knowledge. But in the end, it's about people who go home or go to their office and they actually do it. They say, okay, I heard now in this GreenS training in one of our countries, I heard that GPP is important. I saw that it's possible, that there are good practice examples. After this training, I really got inspired to do it. Why? Because I see that there are many benefits. I see that our neighbor city is good at it, and why are we not? I do it because our mayor is also supporting, you see. So these ex-trainers, to come back to that, they will be trained. They will also have an ICLEI training. You also will have a lot of experience by then, additional experience gathered through all these links, through all this information, and what we discuss in partner meetings. So I think these trainers, if they can communicate also well, and if they have a bit of a background, then it can be really strategically, it will work out as this GPP institutionalization. Now, I would like to give the floor. Let me see, wasn't there Aya before? Aya, yes. The floor is yours. Another Aya? Okay. In the meantime, maybe there's some technical issue. We could go to, who else is there? Savage? We cannot hear you, Savage.
Yeah.
Or both of you? Yes. Who is this?
It's just me, Philip. I'm saying that you can also use the chat function in order to ask the question if your microphone doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes.
Hi, this sounds a very good job. I would like to ask something about the website of GPP 2020. I'm trying now to download the training material.
Wow, you are fast.
I'm doing the translating right now. Yes. No. And I can't find the download button in this area. Just see the acknowledgement and the disclaimer, and I don't know why. Maybe.
Then I pass you on to Philip. He is the project coordinator of GPP 2020. Philip, do you want to answer to Savas?
Yeah, Philip.
Sure, will do. I'm just giving myself a presentation, right, just for you, then also to be able to follow me on the screen. So just a second, please.
Okay, thank you.
So we are going here. Share notifiers. Yeah, Firefox. So here we go. We are back on the GPP 2020 website, and you, for instance, want to have trained to procure material, let's say in Croatian. Then you go here on the material zip button, and then you should be able to open the zip. Those are PDF files. If you want to work on those, you need to contact the respective body mentioned here via email and ask for permission to receive the open data files.
Philip, if you go to the English version, I can't see the zip file.
There's no English. That's maybe a clarification to be made. On the Prime's website, you get English materials for training materials. On the GPP 2020 site, you do not get English training materials. This page basically is just an overview that is basically available on those languages here. So there's no English training material available for GPP 2020. If you're looking for English training materials, then you go to the Commission page or to the Prime's project partner. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you learn Spanish or Italian, Savas?
I can try.
No, thanks for your question. Then Ulrika, you have also a question?
Yes, I was thinking about what you were saying about who should be appointed or chosen as trainers. I thought that it should be staff from the Energy Agency, but when listening to you, it sounded as if it wasn't necessarily staff from the Energy Agency that we should train as trainers. And the other thing that I was thinking about, I might have mentioned it before when we met in Cosenza, is when you showed us all the files, the links to the other projects that have been working on GPP, how should we be different from the other projects? I think this is something that we have to bear in mind all the time, because it seems as if we are doing many things that have been done before. So how are we going to be unique?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it's also, you remember, like the desk officer in Cosenza told us, strongly emphasized to create synergies, and also in the project, it always mentioned that it's based on, there's a clear link even to the project that we should be based on. Therefore, I think it's also a bit a shorter time frame for developing this GPP training. I don't think, when we talk, for instance, about, let's say, IT products, well, the impact is on the environment is what it is, and then the impact you can make through GPP, there is not much difference that you can do. I think the main point is really to make it happen, because what I see in all our good practice examples, the guidance is there, and in this case, you will do it in your language. I think that's a main strength here, that in all these countries, there usually you don't have the training material ready in your language, that it is updated, and you will be probably try to be even more creative on how you inspire, convince then procurers around your area, geographical area, to really take this up. Because you may think, okay, there are all these trainings, it's already done, but then when you really look into it, it's sometimes there could be much more done. So I really hope through our strategic approach, this so-called GPP institutionalization process, strategy, concept, that here we have really makes us unique, that we really learn from others also what good things happened, and where there were challenges, how we can overcome them. And then I think an important point which usually these slides do not have is like how to make it really create a strong link to your reality. Sometimes it's just copied in another language, but there is nothing now specifically on local, regional, national strategies, policies, support. So I think that is mainly what we can, what can make us unique. And about the trainers to be chosen, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's just to choose the best people. You know, if in an energy agency, just to go for energy agency people for the sake of it, I think it should be the most competent in terms of knowledge, either on procurement or legal or. But I think a strong point, according to my experience, is also this communication about how you can convey, because it's also about training. You know, it's not now about someone who gives you a technical, just a technical expert about how I don't know how a passive house works in detail. It's also about how conveying and convincing procurers to do it, to go to their office and to really be inspired and try the next tender to include green criteria, show that it's possible, it's done elsewhere, there is all this knowledge out there. I don't think, me personally, I don't think it must be necessarily, ideally it's someone competent and good from an energy agency, but if you think you have someone else in mind, I think that would also work, unless you, Filippo, or I are working on this, disagree.
Maybe Peter, just to add one thing there, I think it's also important, apart from the wonderful things you say about the quality of those trainers, that they commit to be available for the next 2 years also in this country to provide up to 6 trainings that are scheduled there. So you would like to have, in the best case, some sort of agreement with those trainer to carry on within the framework of GreenS to carry out the 6th training in your country, 6th procurement training. And based on this commitment, I think it's also part of the criteria for the assessment who should be sent to the trainer workshop in February.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. So, Aya, do you want to try again? Second round, second choice. Does the microphone work? Otherwise, you can also write your question in the chat. I just check if you wrote it something. I could also use the chat. Aya, any question? Then you can write it. Otherwise, I see if there is another hand somewhere. Ulrika and Savas, I guess your questions are answered, so you can click again on your hand and then Ulrika, okay. So
I have another question actually, because I mean, in the budget there is no budget for external experts. If you want to have someone else apart from staff from the energy agency being the trainer, so I mean that's in that case you have to employ someone for the work in the project that is not working in the energy agency today. And also, if we are going to be these GPPS, the supporting units, also afterwards the project ends, I mean, then you need to have this staff in the organization.
Yeah.
As far as I understand it, anyway.
Yeah, I think this is also something to be discussed, probably more detailed in another forum, or maybe have the project partner meeting, because I don't know if what is the deadline now to identify the 2 trainers, or could that be discussed more in detail about in the partner meeting. Apparently, Aya, we cannot talk to her. She's also working on this. Is there something from your side, Filippo, on this topic? Identifying trainers. Do they have to come from the energy agency? By when do we have to identify them?
Yeah, we discussed on it also in coherence. The ideal should be to have an expert for sure on law and an energy engineer, and an expert on the public procurement, and also an expert in communication. So I think that these are the main skills, no? To give advice and support, no? Then to municipalities, to public bodies, to local authorities in general. So.
And do you know by when we have to identify, or could we discuss this again and in more detail? Maybe every partner could bring a few ideas, but then that we discuss it at the partner meeting. By when does each partner have to identify the trainers?
The ideal, we already identified who will be the person, the trainer. Okay, and we should know that at the beginning.
Okay, December.
At the beginning of the project, when we implement the project, no, we should already have identified who will be the trainers. But for also, if you have an idea, if you have identified the trainers for the next meeting in Slovenia in Maribor, it would be great.
Okay. Now I see here Aya is writing that the deadline for identifying, if I understand it correctly, the trainers is December 2015. She also says that she agrees with Inete that it would be good to have a basic content for the training materials.
Yeah.
And then we would adapt it to the country situation. Well, as I said, I mean, about the evaluation form, we can provide basic ideas for it all. I mean, about the PowerPoint presentation, which are basically the heart of it, you know, I listed somehow what should a good GPP training package, what it should include from these different items. We can think further. I can send around, when I send around the presentation, a bit of a structure, how I would see what key slides, PowerPoint presentations you should include. I can propose that. And then while you can comment on me, you know, and I can, in the partner meeting, we can follow this up, that we can do. But in the end, each partner has to do develop the training toolkit themselves. So much more, it will be difficult from my side to imagine what I could do, because what I did in other projects is we developed the whole GPP training toolkit, and it was then adapted by partners. But in this case, it's in our task is more to provide guidance. You already have some experience, and to tell you where you find the links. But as I said, me and Philip, here we are to guide you, to support you. So if you have at an individual level have any questions, or you would say, okay, what for our situation, what would you recommend? Then we are happy to support you. But when I send around the PowerPoint presentations that I gave today, I will definitely also maybe include a slide where I say, okay, for me the basic recommendation would be for a basic outline to have at least, I don't know, 7 PowerPoint presentations on this topic, and then you can develop maybe on an individual level, depending on the requests by the procurers for each training. You can prepare maybe an additional presentation, something like that. I hope that would help Aya also to answer your question. No, okay, then we are now, it took a bit longer, but I think it's very important to talk about this already now, because in January we should all have in our languages the training package ready. I think I gave you some basic ideas what it should include, how it should look like, where to find information, and I really recommend you to start now. I mean, we have the best practice example from Cyprus, where Savas during the webinar started already downloading and translating. But really start early, quote when necessary, and properly, and be inspired by what is out there and make a strong link to your country situation. And for every questions you may have, comments, please write to me or Philip, and then we can get back to you. And in at the next partner meeting, we will surely also continue the discussion, see what you already prepared, and there as well, Philip and I will be there. I can imagine that we can there have a session where we do also in a sort of interactive exercise. We discuss individually with all of you where you are, how you could improve, any ideas from our side or on your structure. Is there any last question? Otherwise, Aya, your hand is still there. Is this the so-called mano morta, or is this?
I have one question. Savas here. Yeah, we have these 6 training courses to do in our country. It will be the same training, and we can do it 6 times the same to different audience, or is the same audience and we will do class A, class B, and etc.
No, I'm not sure if I understood properly.
I understood, Peter.
Yes, okay.
I understood, Peter. This is, I think, not defined in the proposal, so it's up to you if you want to do a class with the same people over 6 training courses. But at the same time, we have certain indicators of how many procurers we want to reach, so that might contradict to this. The normal case is that you do 6 times the same training in terms of content, but always to a different audience in order to reach our trained procurers. And just take a look at the indicators.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. I think I will follow this direction, because then it's quite difficult to produce training material for 6 courses, 6 different courses that we have, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
To recommend you, Savas, that in order to reach a lot of procurers, that you have different audiences, but obviously you will have your basic training package. So it could be that, I don't know, you have the first, you go to a municipality, let's say to procurers, and to give your training, and you have typically, it starts with the welcome of the host, of the mayor, for instance. You give an introduction to GPP, questions. Then it could be that you give them also choices. You know, maybe they say, okay, we want a presentation, an introduction to GPP, why it makes sense. And then we want to have, for instance, after the break, a session on how do we set it up strategically. And there you find information. It could be then after lunch that they are interested in vehicles and buildings. So you can give 2 sessions, do them also interactively on these 2. And this would be one training. It could then be that the week after, there is another target group, you know, again, procurers who say, okay, we are already advanced, so don't give us an entire session on the introduction, but we would like to focus more on IT products and green energy. So in that case, you would then use, you know, your presentations that you've prepared that are also on their website on these topics. And maybe they are not so interested in strategy, but rather, I don't know, the legal background. And then you would give a presentation on that. You see, so it's important to have also a bit of a flexible structure, that you have, like when you play cards, that you have different cards to play that satisfy the expectations from the target group.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, then. I see no more hands. Thanks a lot. I think it was I hope it was a very useful preparation. It's great also, I think technically the webinar was fine, although we had few people, but from Sweden to Cyprus, from Andalusia to Slovenia, so I hope it went well, and we really will spread and institutionalize GPP step by step. We come now to an end. Thanks for your attention. Thanks, Philip, for supporting me in this webinar. And Filippo, maybe you want to say how it works now. Shall we have, I guess it's